What's up, Sag? Welcome to your September 2020 Creativity Tarot reading. My name is Kayleigh Jean, and welcome to my channel. I record these readings for artists, entrepreneurs, and anyone who's working on their personal growth, self-expression, or spirituality in any form. So if those areas of life are important or intriguing for you right now, I encourage you to go ahead and keep watching. Just in case you're new here, I always like to say in the very beginning of the reading that you can use these readings for your sun, moon, or your rising sign, and it's also possible if sometimes they don't resonate. This is really just because I'm reading the collective energies, so something you can do is, like I said, listen to all three and see if, maybe one of your other signs resonates more, or you can come back to the reading at the end of the month. A lot of times what I hear from people is that the reading didn't resonate at the beginning of the month, but when they came back later, it actually really did. So let's get into your messages, your intuitive messages. So while I was tuning in for you guys, I kept feeling this energy of water being somehow really important in healing for you this month, Sagittarius. So I first kind of got this because I was in meditation, and then all of a sudden it's like dark, and then I just see kind of light on the horizon and someone running down like a deck or maybe like a diving board or something like that, and then jumping into the water below them. And it just feels like this very refreshing energy. It feels like there's a lot of freedom as well, that I got like a feeling of freedom, a feeling of spaciousness, and also sometimes the theme of water in this way can represent a cleanse, being cleansed, releasing things that have been clogging up our system, either emotionally, mentally, or even physically. So some of you could be doing some kind of a cleanse this month. You could be drinking more juice, maybe you making vegetable juice or things like that, or you could just be drinking more water, or drinking water that has been blessed. Maybe you're getting into, blessing your water before you drink it, or there's something about water that's just coming through really strongly for you guys. It's like some kind of healing going on around water or in relation to water in some way. Even if it's just diving into a natural body of water like a river or a lake or the ocean, there's just something that is very powerful about this that's coming through. So don't shy away from healing yourself through natural means, particularly with the elements, and even more specifically with the element of water. You just feel that very, very strongly for you, and I really am not sure why, but it's just coming through repeatedly. I also feel like there's this, there's like an energy as well underneath everything that I just spoke about that has to do with initiative for you, Sagittarius. I think some of you are really embracing the idea of taking initiative this month in September, and I'm not sure all of the ways in which that is specifically going to impact you, or the ways in which it's specifically going to relate to your life experience, but I really do feel like there's something about your life that you are kind of jumping into, or you are initiating, you are sort of starting it or planting a seed yourself. So there has a lot to do with choice in this feeling that's coming through. It's like you're making some kind of decisive choice that propels you forward at this time. And I think that it's, again, coupled with this energy of cleansing that I was getting before, it all seems like multiple lines of your life are sort of converging more or less around this point of the year, September, maybe even into October as well, where there's just a unification of your interest, and there's a sense of almost kind of simplicity or alignment, really, that I'm getting, that's kind of coming in under the surface. It may start kind of slowly and then build momentum, but I really do feel this coming through. It's like an inner certainty, or even maybe like an inward conviction that has to do with maybe transcending some sort of difficulty in your life, or accepting something that you didn't have control over, then kind of opens the door for you to live in this more aligned way for yourself. So this is a very interesting message. I hope that's helpful for someone out there. Let's take a look at your cards. Sagittarius, Sagittarius, Sagittarius. I'm using the Tarot Muha for you guys today. I just feel like it's such a beautiful deck for this time of year. It has that golden change of seasons kind of vibe. Sagittarius, Sagittarius. And we'll get your Bob Ross message. Okay, we got a jumper. Just gonna trust that. All right, let's take a look at your path and the influence card. So your path is the oyster. It's funny because it's a water creature. And the influence is the hyena. So the influence card can also sometimes be an obstacle. In this case, I do feel that it is a little bit representing an obstacle. The oyster as your path, I feel, you know, if anybody out there has this deck, you know kind of like what this card talks about. It's a really beautiful card, and I really love the illustration on it. You can kind of see this light almost kind of starting to come out from the edge of the oyster. The oyster is a creature that has a very tight grip on itself. And it can really clam up, right? It can close off and hold this beautiful pearl within it, right? But the pearl can't really be appreciated by the world if nobody knows it's there, right? If it stays hidden, then it won't really be able to do much good. The other interesting thing about pearls is that they actually are a defense mechanism that the oyster has internally, where maybe a piece of sand or grit kind of gets inside the shell and it irritates the tender flesh within it. And so the oyster actually builds a mineral kind of wall around whatever that irritant is, and that's actually how we get pearls. So there's a very deep message here, Sagittarius, which is that something that has been sort of bugging you, like something that's been kind of like a fly in the ointment, is actually perhaps one of your greatest gifts. And I think that there is some element here with the oyster card showing up as your path that really talks about you not really being able to hold something within you that's bothering you. I feel like you have this need to express something, whether it's to a family member or somebody close with you in your environment, perhaps, or maybe even to your fellowship, or if you have like an online business, or to your clients, if you work with clients or whatever. There's something that you have to give, but for some reason, I feel like you're like closing off from it a little bit. And you have so much light to share, though. Like it's almost like you're gonna explode, Sag. I feel this energy of like you're ready to freaking pop. But it's because you have so much light and beauty within you, but for some reason you're kind of like holding it back. Now, the obstacle card is the hyena, which I think gives us more insight into why you might be holding something like this back. And it is because you're afraid of the, you're either one of two things that's coming to me. Number one, you could be afraid of like shining too brightly and leaving other people in your shadow, which is, you know, a very thoughtful like fear to have. It's almost like you don't want to outshine other people, or you don't want to you know, be kind of in the spotlight and leave other people in the shadow. Like we see the half the moon is in shadow, and maybe you're also worried that like shining as bright as you possibly can could invite competition energy or negative energy to you for whatever reason. And you're not wrong. You know, I feel like it's important. I do these readings for creative people, and you're not wrong in that fear. It will happen, Sagittarius. Frankly, it will happen. You will attract negative energies to you when you share more of your light. It's specifically because they're drawn to that, even though they're drawn to it in sort of a negative way. They're drawn to your light because you're so bright and shiny. If you weren't as shiny as you are, then you wouldn't attract as much, you know, criticism or hatred or negativity. So I think it's important to recognize that, like, you know, when we are creators, when we're artists, when we are writers or performers, actors, whatever, we will encounter criticism. We will encounter, you know, haters or trolls from time to time. But as long as you stay in your like highest vibration energy, when you stay in your truth, then they're not going to really be able to harm you as much as you might think that they could. Sure, somebody can leave a mean comment or whatever, and that might make you, it might hurt your feelings for a few minutes or whatever. But a lot of the time, when you're in your high vibration, you can really tell that whatever is coming back at you from other people is more a reflection of them and not so much a reflection of you. So I think that's something really important to remember, especially when we are creators, when we are people who are doing creative things in the world. We're always going to face criticism. We're always going to face people who maybe genuinely and honestly, you know, if we're just being completely truthful, they are probably just jealous of what you're doing. And so they have this desire to kind of tear you down. There's always, you know, the criticism, the harshest criticism that comes to you as a creative person often comes from people who have never been in the arena even 1 second in their life. You know, like the meanest, most nastiest things that people will do, you know, to a creative person, like writing scathing reviews online, or, you know, leaving a horrible, nasty comment or whatever. A lot of times that's coming from people who have never put themselves out there, have never risked anything, never put themselves on the line. Often they're from profiles that don't even have, you know, an actual human face, and their title is not even their actual name. So they're operating with total anonymity. And let's just call that what it is, Sagittarius, because you are who you are. You know, you're a Sag, so I think you can get this. You're a courageous sign. All of that kind of stuff is bullshit. All these people hiding behind, you know, like, what's the word? Anonymity, people hiding behind anonymity online, bots online, people with, you know, a cartoon character and some made up name on their profile that are just, you know, if they do harass you or if they do say something negative, all the time, like these people who are hiding behind that mask don't deserve even 2 seconds of your time. They don't deserve anything of your emotional state because they're not in the ring. You know, they can be rude and hateful and spiteful all they want, but they're not sweating it out with you. They're not grinding it out. They're not dirty and bruised and just throwing themselves completely, risking hours and days and weeks and months and years of their life to put something out that's shiny and beautiful into the world. Like, they're just not. They're not doing that. So I think that this is a really important lesson for you, Sag, to not put too much stock in what other people think about you, but actually just tune directly into yourself and share what's true for you at this time, you know, and just kind of divorce yourself from any need for validation from others. So let's take a look at your tarot cards. Nine of Wands, 10 of the major arcana, which is the Wheel of Fortune. We've got the Hermit and the Sun. Wow. Queen of Cups, Nine of Swords, Six of Cups, and the Four of Wands in reverse at the end of the month. Interesting. So the beginning of September starts out with a Pisces full moon, which for you symbolically falls in your 4th house. So this could bring the focus of home and domesticity, matters of the home, into your life at this time. And I think, you know, there's maybe something that you've been curious about broaching, like maybe some kind of change when it comes to your home environment or change when it comes to your career that you've been hesitant to kind of follow through with. Because the Nine of Wands is here. It's like a 9 crossing over into a 10, a reversed 9 that has to do with, you know, staying strong, picking yourself up by your bootstraps, but also a sense of wariness about the future. All of that is reversed where we have this Wheel of Fortune card upright. So I do think that this is an important transition phase for you, Sag, and I see some of you making changes right now that have been like seasons in the coming, right? Like this has not been something that, this isn't something that I'm talking about that you're just now realizing. This is something that you've been thinking about and that you can feel the seasons of your life are changing. You can feel that your needs are changing, and you've known that this was coming for a long time. So it's not something that's just impulsive. This is like a change that you have been knowing was going to come up. You were just waiting sort of for the right conditions. And I think for some of you, the conditions are right in September to make this shift, whatever it is. Now, the second week of September, we've got the Sun and the Hermit in reverse. So this is talking about, I think, being more vocal and visible and being less of a hermit in some way. So with the Hermit in reverse, I feel like this is about, this is kind of like, you know, when you have a long period of time where you're kind of studying something, right? Sagittarius, you know what I mean. You guys are the sign of philosophy and higher learning and higher knowledge. When you have the Hermit in reverse with the Sun, it's like that period of time where you've been studying and learning and developing a very subtle and very nuanced understanding of a topic. Then you get to this point where it's like, okay, it's time for you to start talking about it. It's time for you to share it with the world. It's time for the sun to rise on whatever this is, because the Hermit phase is no longer going to provide you with the same nurturance and satisfaction of growth. Like, you've grown in the dark as long as you can. Now it's time to come out into the sun and bring all of this inner knowledge and reflection and also study and learning that you've done in the shadows, and it's time to bring it out into the light. So that's going on, I think, in the first half of September, generally speaking. The third week of September, we have the Queen of Cups in reverse with the Nine of Swords. So what I want to say to you is that if some of you are really pushing yourselves to get out of your comfort zone, which we see here, you know, bringing things out into the open, exposing things, maybe taking your life in a different direction on some level, I think the third week of September would be a really good time for you to have like a reading or maybe even a consultation with a therapist or a counselor or something along those lines, because these cards to me indicate a need to feel heard and a need to feel emotionally supported. You can't always do everything on your own. Sometimes Sagittarians come across as very independent and free thinkers, and very much, you know, don't necessarily ask for help very often because they're just really trust their own ability to make things happen. But when you're going through a big shift, Sag, I think it is really important that you get the emotional support that you need, whether that is maybe a phone call with a caring friend, or like I said before, a counseling session with a therapist, or maybe even a reading like with an astrologer, or you know, even for some of you, because it's the Queen of Cups, even some of you could be seeing some kind of healer like an acupuncturist or somebody who works with Reiki or energy healing, because there's something here about like a need to, I guess, be vulnerable. and a need to just express what your fears are and to face something that feels like an imbalance head on, right? Like those are the energies that we see. The Nine of Swords is anxiety and worry, but the Queen of Cups can be a healer, but she's in reverse, indicating that you have to ask for the help. Like it's not going to just magically arrive in most cases. You are going to need to be the one to, you know, raise your hand and say, I could use a little bit of help right now, you know, and that's perfectly fine. And I think that you will be able to help with some of your anxieties, or some of your concerns will be soothed, honestly, by just getting that interaction with somebody who can, you know, give you some support. I think that that's really going to be the best use of your time in the 3rd week of September. Now, the Six of Cups and the Four of Wands in reverse at the end of the month, I feel this is a happy energy for the most part. These are happy cards. The Four of Wands can be about domesticity and your like family environment. It can also be about long-term relationships and marriage and things like that. Whereas the Six of Cups is about children, and it's about connecting with children or your children, or maybe even your childhood, like thinking about friends from childhood or your childhood self. So I'm wondering if some of you, and maybe this makes sense because it's like back to school time, some of you could be doing learning programs with your children or working with children in a new way, maybe developing some kind of curriculum or illustrating something for children that helps them learn subjects. This could be something that is part of some of your guys' lifestyles at the end of the month, and something that just plays a pretty big role in your life at that time, and maybe even continuing into October. Overall, though, I do get the sense that this is a very stable time. It's a happy time. I think that there might be some goals that you want to accomplish at home that might kind of elude you a little bit at the end of the month. With the Four of Wands being reversed, you might have like a home improvement project that you're hoping to have done, and it's just like a little bit of a delay. But everything seems to be going ultimately really well with the Six of Cups. It's just a happy environment, and yeah, maybe the progress that you want isn't being made at the exact pace that you hoped, but you have a lot to be grateful for, and there's just a sense of connection and joy with the people that are closest to you. So that looks really beautiful. Let's take a look at your Bob Ross message. It says, whatever makes you happy, you put it in your world. That's beautiful. That's this energy right here, you know? That's like what matters the most for you, Sagittarius. And you guys care about a lot of things, but you're not like separate from the rest of humanity, in the sense that like family really is the most important thing. So I think, you know, with this energy, it's like bringing in to your world the people that make you happy, and also kind of looking continuously at ways that you can set up the flow of your life so that you can do things that you enjoy more often as possible with people that you enjoy spending time with. And that's really ultimately like the whole point of everything, right? So that's kind of what I'm getting there. Your Surrender Oracle card is surrender to receiving support and love. Wow, that is so beautiful considering everything that I just said. So fascinating. It says, allow the support, or allow the love and support of others in, rather than trying to handle everything yourself. This can take the pressure off and simultaneously nurture you. That's fascinating, Sag. I really feel that like so strongly. I was talking about this with the whole second half of the month, you know? It's crazy. And your Sacred Destiny Oracle card is Wisdom. That's beautiful. You know, this reminds me because you guys are going to have a new moon in Virgo in the 3rd week of September, which is symbolically falling in your 10th house of career. and your position in the world, what people see about you in the public eye. So I think, because that's going on in the third week, and you're gonna, like I said, want to have some support at that time or whatever, it almost makes you feel like some of you could be making a pretty big shift on your career path at this time. And the wisdom card is kind of showing up to say, like, you do know what you're doing, Sagittarius. You do have, as long as you're relying on the lessons you've learned in life, like as long as you're not forgetting or ignoring important lessons that you've learned, and you're really taking a grounded, humble, personally truthful approach, I think you absolutely have everything that you need to succeed right now with these changes, right? With the new moon in the 10th, it really represents a new potential path opening up for you. So I hope that this reading gives you some inspiration to trust yourself during this time. Please let me know in the comments if you have any feedback or questions. If you'd like to just let me know you're still with me, put a little star emoji or just write stars below or something like that, just to let me know you're still here for my long readings, and that's also really helpful for my channel. Thank you so much for being here, Sag. I'm sending you guys tons of love. Take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you next time.